All right, let's hope this is the last one. All right, so I wanted to give one kind of caveat to a principle and then probably call it quits. So, what I wanted to talk about was I talked about how the patriarch is not to consume the means upon himself. The idea is he's a conduit to other people. And I talked about like being like in a family where it's like the father has to invest in the mother for years before the child is old enough to support themselves. So it's for the most part it's a zero sum. It's a non-profit venture. But it occurred to me as I was saying that it's like that doesn't mean necessarily that the children do not of their own volition choose to help support the patriarch. Through the history of the earth, fathers and mothers have often um, relied upon the labor of their children as their children became old enough. It's like you're not going to get anything for years. Um, it's like the child won't be able to work for years, but then when the child gets old enough, maybe they help on the farm or they do whatever. And oftentimes through the history of the earth, that labor has been to help the father. And of course, there is the element of corruption in that you can have a father who uh, extends no love, extends no goodness to the children. He's a sum loss. He just wants everybody to, all the kids to work as much as they can so that, he can then hoard and take care of it all. But then you have good fathers and mothers who it's like when the children do pitch in and they say, "Hey, here, Dad, I earned some money and I know that you're having a hard time making the mortgage. I hope this helps." That's a modern thought, but back in the day it would have been getting out there behind the plow when you're old enough to do so and doing so. Um, and of course, the good way that the father takes care of those things is that it's like whatever does come to him is for the benefit of the family. So the son may know he's going to work all these years for his dad, but he knows that dad really loves him, and the day is going to come when um, dad is going to when he's ready to have his own family, dad's going to be right there to use what means he has from the family to help build that boy a cabin for him and his wife, or help him get a piece of land or whatever, and that in the years when his father has no more children in the house, he's going to be still loving and serving his adult children, right? So love is at the core of what makes this all work. I didn't want to give the impression that it only goes one way, that the parents only serve the children, that the children never give back to the parents. That's, I think, what we have more today. Is it's like, the parents are the servants of the children to the point of destroying and spoiling the children. So there is something that does come back up the chain. It's love and grace that love and grace that comes down, and it's love and grace that comes back up, and appreciation. And so it's a family model. It is intrinsically tied to the very fabric of existence. We exist because of this model, because of families, spiritual and physical, biological. So another example of this, I was thinking of some men who are kind of fathers of their own time, um, who who because they gave spiritually, because they had a work which was spiritual, they ended up in a position where uh, some of the children of their teachings had to help take care of them temporally. But what we see is the absence of corruption. We see that in Jesus Christ as he's going around and he says, "I don't have a house. Foxes don't have holes," and and people are feeding him in the different places that he goes. Um, but ultimately, whatever he receives is for the benefit of all. And of course, there's this idea that he multiplies it too, like the loaves and the fishes, you know. Um, and we can see this with kind of the founders of some faiths as well. It's like they'd spend years and years preaching a message that they felt they had to preach. I think of the Buddha with his beggar's bowl, right? So he's the father of a people, right? It's like he's a father of the Buddhist faith, if you can call it a faith, a belief system, and so he's giving everything he can, which is all spiritual, but he's not going out and taking the time to gather gather his own mushrooms, and it's like he's just relying upon people to help him, and and uh, and when we see this handled well, we see situations where sometimes some organizations or people, fathers, they receive a great deal, a great sum, and their work constantly through their life is like, well, how do I redistribute this, um, so that it's not a mandated redistribution of wealth. It's fascinating that comes full circle. So it's it's not a public policy, it's a personal policy, because the patriarch desires, yes, to live and have the things he needs from day to day, but also to serve the family in the way, his family in the way that is most conducive with that light which burns within him. All right, so in this you've gotten a glimpse into the patriarchal. I won't say much more because I'm at 6.5 minutes. Wow, a lot's been said. As I finish this up, I realize the very thing that I wanted to talk about with regards to all this, I actually haven't even touched on. So we're moving on. There will be another episode about patriarchal. It has to do with love. So you can look forward to that starting tomorrow.